everybody. Happy Friday. How are you? What's going on in your part of the world? My name is Lisa Mustard, and today I have a really, really special guest, my friend Jeffrey Kishner, who is going to join me momentarily, as we talk about tips for healthier communication, something that I spend a lot of time in private practice helping people with is how to be better communicators in their relationships, how to have healthier conversations, how to get your wants and your needs actually expressed and then have the other person reciprocate in a positive way, right? You guys are so important when it comes to healthy relationships. Hey, Drew. Hey, everybody. Thank you for being here. Hey, Mindy. I'm so glad you're here. I'm just waiting for Jeffrey. There he is to hop on. You guys are going to like Jeffrey. We're very different, but yet we have a lot of things in common. So let me bring him on, add him to the broadcast, and he'll tell you a little bit about who he is and what he does and how he helps. Yeah, it's kind of a cool story. I'm telling you, platforms, you guys, social media, it is the future is now. There he is. Hey, Jeff. How you doing?
Great.
Good. Like we were saying, we've been testing this out in a private group that we have created, and we've been trying to figure this out for about 20 minutes now, and I think we finally have it down. And every time I'm able to do a dual live, I'm like surprised it works because technology is just so cool. And I know that you are a technology lover. And so I was just telling people a little bit about you, but will you tell people like who you are and who you help and how we connected?
Yeah, I'm a psychotherapist practicing in New York City, and you and I connected because we're both therapists on the Talkspace platform. It's one of those telemental health apps where you can message your therapist and send like audio and video messages.
Yeah.
So it's been a rewarding experience, and I've gotten to know you over the past month or so.
Yeah.
You mentioned
cool.
our similarities and differences. You're definitely a lot more high energy than I am. So I'm trying to give myself that extra push. I had a peanut butter cup a minute ago, and so hopefully that will last me for 20 minutes before I turn into my usual self.
You're awesome. And I think that's one of the things that is I really like about you, Jeff, is that you're honest and you're transparent and you're fun. Like you have a really great personality, and you bring something special to our group because you and I are in a group, a process group, and it's really cool to have your calming personality in there, but also you like to have fun, and I appreciate that. And you guys, I have to apologize. Today is the last day of school before my kids go back, so if you can hear them in the other room, I apologize. The Mustard girls are getting ready to go back on Monday, and today's the last hurrah. So thanks for your patience if you hear anybody in the other room. Yeah, so here's the thing. I just want everybody to know that Jeff is, like he said, he's a therapist in New York. I'm a therapist in South Carolina. We do a lot of the same things, but we are only licensed to work with folks that are within our states. Are you licensed to work with people outside of New York or just people in New York?
Just New York. Just New York.
Okay, and international. We can work with international clients as well. So that's important because you have quite a few international. Do you have international clients on Talkspace?
No, actually I don't. They're all New Yorkers.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have some international folks, and I'm really enjoying helping people in different countries. I'm learning so much about cultures and about norms, and it's fascinating. But people are people, and people, they desire to be heard. They desire to be validated. And I find that the work that we do is challenging, but it's really important, I think, for us to hold that space for people who need a non-judgmental perspective and ear. So one of the things that you and I really enjoy are working with people in relationships, and everybody's in some type of relationship, right? Even if it's your working environment, with your kids, with your friends, with your family, we're all in relationships. But you and I really wanted to talk a little bit more about romantic relationships today. So what is something that you're seeing in a theme perhaps you're seeing with your clients that you feel would be helpful for a lot of people to learn about?
Yeah, I notice a lot of people have a lot of fear around stating their needs. And that could be anything from, what they want in the bedroom to, how they want their partner to take care of the house or to deal with, or how they interact with outside friends. And, sometimes when you don't communicate, you end up feeling just resentful, and it ends up coming out
Right.
in like passive aggression or just sort of little jabs here and there, and it ends up poisoning the relationship. Or else you just end up feeling very unfulfilled and lonely because there's a type of connection that you really long for, and you're afraid that if you talk about it, your partner might get defensive or shame
Mhm.
you or tell
Right.
you, no, that's not going to work for me.
Right.
So I thought it would be interesting to talk a little bit about, ways to communicate to your partner that don't put them immediately on the defensive, and the benefits of being able to be more transparent with
Cool.
them
Cool.
and to move
I
through
like
the
that.
fear.
I like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. I see that a lot in my work as well. And to be honest, you guys, I go through that as well. Like, um, people seem to think, and I don't know about you, Jeff, but people always seem to think like, oh, since you're a counselor, you have it all together. And I don't, because I'm a human being and I have
Hmm.
wants and I have needs that don't always jive with Billy's. And so how do you navigate that? How do you ask for what you want and what you need in a healthy way, respecting the other person's point of view, and helping them get their needs met at the same time. So what do you suggest to people?
Um, I think it's always useful to, I kind of call it like a sandwich or an Oreo cookie where you like, depending on you like the cream or the cookie better, but like you start with something that's affirmative and positive, and then you
Mm-hmm.
express your frustration or your need, and then you close it with something that's like the other cookie, where you're
Right.
sharing how much they mean to you. So it could be like, I appreciate how much you've been doing extra around the house, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm noticing that I'm starting to feel a little bit uptight because I still feel like I'm doing like two-thirds of the housework, and it doesn't feel equitable to me. And so I wanted to be able to talk to you about, how this can feel fair for both of us. I know we have different schedules and different talents and all that, but I
Mm-hmm.
think I'd feel better in this relationship if we could have that discussion, because I love you and I want to have a positive relationship while we're living together, for example.
I like it.
Well, and the opposite of that is just nagging. Like, you don't do
Right.
the dishes at night, and blah blah blah, and then that just makes them defensive and feel criticized.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I hear you, and I'm mentally taking notes because I think that's so wise. I,
Hmm.
I like how you phrase it as a sandwich or as a cookie. I can relate to both of those well. So I can envision,
Right.
I can envision like an Oreo. I can envision the two sides of the cookie are the validation and the appreciation and the love. In the middle is I would, and I like how you own the feeling. Um, I would feel better. I would feel happier. I would feel, what insert feeling here, because you're owning that feeling. You're not saying like, and you never do the dishes, and so why would I want to reciprocate and help you out? I don't even want to be here anymore. You can see the difference. And I really like how you gave that visual of a cookie. Like, I get it. I can so get it. I'm going to use that,
Hmm.
man. I'm going to use that for
Right.
sure.
Just don't eat all of them. So I'm curious what your approach is when you notice clients having a hard time expressing their needs.
Yeah, I think we probably do a lot of the same things. It's I
Yeah.
think when people come and it's individual counseling and they're talking about a relationship, it's a very similar conversation. It's a very similar skill that we're teaching. And I think most people, they're so driven by their feelings all the time, and that it's hard for them to take a step back and to really look at the bigger picture. Like, okay, and so I'll ask the question, like, what happens when you respond that way, or what happens when you react that way, and kind of get them to see how what they're doing is kind of causing sometimes the issue. And I'm not saying that by any means that, there's always two people in a relationship at the least that's trying to figure something out. But just to be that person that says, let's take a look at, let's back it up and pick it apart a little bit and say, okay, now let's try to figure out another way you can ask to get your needs met. So I think you and I do a lot of the same work. We just probably use different words. But I think it's just super important that that people are talking about this, because I know at the end of the day, I want healthy conversation with my husband. I want my children to be able to communicate healthier as they grow up. And it's a lot of people, I don't know about you, but you get a lot of people coming to counseling or coming to therapy that they're stuck in a cycle, and they don't know how to break out of that cycle. And they feel like they should be able to get the skill down one time, and then they should be done. And it's not that easy for a lot of people. There's a history, there's family stuff that gets in the way. There's past experiences that get in the way. Sometimes there's trauma that gets in the way. So every client is an individual in itself. You and I might have, like, I like to say, tools in our toolbox, but the client and their perspective and what they bring is most important. And we have to meet people where they are. And so that's really important to me as a counselor and as a human being, just meeting people where they are.
Yeah. It might help some clients to, like, start with small risks and then build themselves up to things that feel a little more scary. Like, I think talking about the kitchen would be different than talking about, I have, like a sexual desire that hasn't been met. And I'm afraid of talking to you about this because I'm afraid you'll think ill of me. And, if I'm going to be spending the rest of my life with you, it's important to acknowledge it. Like, that's a lot of a touchier subject. And, as someone who works a lot with sexuality in relationships, how do you work through your own shame around that? And, if, how is your partner going to respond? And so a lot of the times I work with clients to explore, like, the cost benefit of, like, just hiding versus being able to share what's important to you, and looking at, how you can share something that's feeling very vulnerable with your partner, where you're not communicating like, it's not the case that I'm not attracted to you. It's just that there's this thing, for example. I don't know if your audience want,
Yeah, I gotcha.
And so for a lot of people, right. So for a lot of people, it's like, really, like, even making a list of, this is what hurts me when I don't express what I need intimately. And these are the possible benefits if at least we have the conversation. And it doesn't necessarily mean there will be a resolution. There might be an incompatibility, but at least there's a conversation, and then you end up feeling less isolated and more supported. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I really like that. I like the suggestions that you make. And I'm imagining that you are helping a good number of people with their relationship issues and with their communication issues. So I love it. Is there anything else that would be important to add?
You were mentioning something earlier about, like, past family patterns and trauma and things like that. And I think if you recognize that your past is getting in the way of your present, that being in therapy is a very useful thing. Like, we can all stand to benefit from learning good communication strategies, but if like you have a long history of, being harshly shamed or rejected whenever you try to reach out and get support, even if the person that you're with right now isn't like that, you might, like what we in therapy call project all these old things on them and sort of expect, like, so risky to voice your needs because you think that anyone's going to make you happy. And so I think in a case like that, it really is useful to sit down with someone and really talk about, the expectations that you have and how your old relationships with like parents or past partners has impacted how you feel about yourself and how you expect people to treat you. And I think, that it can get into some pretty raw territory, but I think once you're able to move through that, it can feel safer to express your needs in the present.
Right. Right. I think that's cool. I really like how you phrase all of that and how you think it through. I think that's really neat. So one question that I'm always curious to know from other counselors is how did you decide to become a therapist?
When I went to college, I immediately started this peer counseling training program where basically there was this basement room where like college students would just counsel other college students. A peer counsel, and I just found that it suited me well. I tend to just be very empathic and observant and know patterns and think about views. So I feel like I'm well suited to the profession.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah. How about you?
It's funny how I got into
I don't know
it.
your
I actually went to grad school for health promotion, and I went for health promotion and education, and I was putting together a lot of health and wellness programs. And what I was finding was that a lot of people were stuck in feelings of depression, were stuck in anxiety, and they couldn't really focus on their health and wellness until they focused on those things first. And I felt I couldn't help them. And I realized I couldn't help them because I didn't have the training to help people. And then at the same time, who was Billy, who is now my husband, he and I had a major breakup. And like you were talking about, I decided I went to counseling to like understand my family history, to understand what was going on with me. I was in my mid-20s and I was just kind of like, I need help when it comes to healthy relationships just because of the way I was raised and blah, blah, blah. And when I was in there doing therapy, I remember my counselor was like, you'd make a really good counselor. And I was like, oh. And so she kind of planted that seed for me. And I loved the process. I loved having that space of being able to talk about whatever I wanted. I go to therapy when I love it. I love it. I think it's such an amazing thing for people to have in their lives. And as I learned more about myself, and I realized that growing up, like you, I was always like a detective, an observer of people's patterns, an observer of behavior, always trying to understand what made people do what they did. And so I'm fascinated by people and, helping them kind of process through wherever they are, whatever's going on. But yeah, that's it for me. I mean, I kind of just went through my own stuff and realized like I really enjoy this, and it felt very congruent with my skill set and my. I'm empathic too. I'm a little bit more, as I've gotten older, like I'm still empathic, but I'm a little bit more direct. I don't know if you find yourself being more direct as you age and as you get more, like as a therapist, you're a little bit, in the beginning, I was like a lot more quieter. I was a little bit more, I guess as you grow up and you have more life experiences, you're able to kind of bring that to the table. Of course, not project my own stuff onto my clients or have an agenda for them, but I have a lot more patience, I would say, at this stage of my life with meeting people where they are and not pushing when they're not ready to be pushed, and then not staying in the same spot with them when they are ready to move forward. If that makes sense. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, as with you, I've experienced, as you can tell from my gray hair, and I, I, I challenge people when they need to be prodded if they're at a point where there's that possibility. Um, I believe that just being able to help someone feel listened and cared for is like the bottom line of what you need for effective therapy.
Mm-hmm.
But being able to on their stuff and not let them fall into a passive. Sometimes you really just have to be forward with them and say,
Mm-hmm.
listen, you're falling into this possibility for your own life. You need to actually
Mm-hmm.
do something. So
Right.
that to be able to do that, but I do think it's necessary.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Well, I really appreciate you taking your time out of a Friday and meeting me here in this space and doing this duo live. It's been really fun.
Hmm.
I'm hoping maybe we can do another one in a couple of weeks. If people want to know more about you and how you help people, where can they find you? What is the best place? If you're in New York and you want a therapist, how do they find you?
Um, you can go to my website. It's psychotherapy.jeffreykishner.com, and I'll just spell my name. It's JeffreyKishner. Or if you're on Facebook, it's just facebook.com/Jeffrey Kishner Psychotherapist.
Awesome.
Thanks. It's
And
a
then
great
maybe after
talking
this
to you
live is
today.
you can. Oh, thank you. Well, I was going to say after this live is over, if you want to come back and put your website in the comments, that way people can just click on it from there. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
And just they can go and do that. Um, but I appreciate you so much. I look forward to many successful collaborations in the future. And I'm so grateful that we have connected and that
Hmm.
we know each other. And it's been awesome so far. So I will see you in
Yeah.
well, virtually, I guess. I'll keep seeing you virtually. Okay, cool. Well, you guys have a great
Right.
rest of your Friday. We're so glad you're here. If you're just
Okay.
hopping on now, go back and catch the replay. And if you have questions or you have a topic you want us to come back and talk about, you can message us privately or you can share it in the comments. We would love to come back and give you some more insight into in your life and your relationship. So you guys have a great Friday and happy weekend, and we will see you soon. So take